Hello, guys, and welcome to my review for The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And I just want to get this off my chest right off the bat. I have no relation to Coriolanus Snow. None whatsoever. Or Jon Snow. Or any other fictional Snow, so stop asking me. So The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is a incredibly unnecessarily long title. Yes, based off the book, which I've never read. Full disclosure, I've never read any of the Hunger Games books, even though I have the Hunger Games book sitting here. That's the only one I have, and I've been meaning to read it and never have. But I do enjoy the previous Hunger Game movies, and I was pretty excited about this new Hunger Games movie, a prequel to the events that happened in the previous Hunger Game movies with Jennifer Lawrence. This is like, what, 60-ish years before? I'm not exactly sure the time, because this is the 10th Hunger Games. The other ones were like the 74th, so like 60-something years in between there, which is interesting. And they decided to focus on a young Coriolanus Snow, and I hope I'm saying his name right, even though it sounds funny, because eventually, obviously, he's the bad guy in the original movies. Here, he is your protagonist. He's the person we're kind of following around and essentially rooting for, and we kind of see his slow descent into who he eventually becomes. And the premise around here is, he's like trying to make a name for himself at this academy or whatever in the capital, and he essentially gets attached to one of the tributes for the 10th Hunger Games, played by Rachel Zegler, who plays Lucy Gray-Baird, and essentially he has to be her mentor and help her try to obviously flourish during the games. Whether or not she lives or dies is inconsequential. He's just trying to make a name for himself and get some sort of prize money, blah blah blah, and to better his family and his standing there. Along the way, as with any Hunger Games movie, it's not just about the games themselves, it's about so much more. And this is a pretty dense story here. Never read the book. The way the film is structured, it is in 3 parts. I guess that's what the books did. I forget the name of the 3 parts, but they go out of their way to give you the big title screen that says like Part 1, The Mentor, Part 2, I forget that part, Part 3, I forget that part. I guess I'll start off with the strengths, and the strengths of this film include this cast, which is absolutely awesome. The acting in this film is probably the best in any Hunger Games movie, because you got Tom Blyth, a name I've probably seen him and stuff, never heard of him before, but he plays your Coriolanus Snow, and I think he's phenomenal. And I wasn't sure as I started the movie what percentage of like carrying the movie he was going to be, and he carries a majority of this film. Then you have Rachel Zegler, who I dug in a bunch of other stuff. West Side Story, I liked her in quite a bit. And it's really cool to see her here. Heck of a singing voice. And she, her character, Lucy Gray-Baird, was very interesting. And again, I think Rachel Zegler, just acting-wise, did a really good job. Then you got like Viola Davis, who crushes it every time she shows up in anything. I don't care what she's in. She could be in a phone book commercial, or she could read me the phone book, show up in a boring commercial, and I think she'd be great. She's absolutely awesome in this, playing Dr. Volumnia Gaul. I don't know. Hunger Games got so many stinking weird names, including Peter Dinklage's character, Casca Highbottom. Just absolutely silly, ridiculous names. It's you're in a Hunger Games movie when you get those weird names. And look, Peter Dinklage isn't in the movie a whole lot, but when he's in it, he's great. I love Peter Dinklage. And then you got to talk about Jason Schwartzman as Lucky Flickerman, who was obviously played in the original film series by Stanley Tucci, who was awesome. I think Schwartzman here is great comedic relief and just does a great job playing a younger version of that character. Just absolutely one of my favorite parts of the whole film. I think a lot of the set design's great. The world of Pan Am is utterly fascinating, and I think it's a very interesting world that they build here. And why they feel like they have to go through these barbaric Hunger Games and having children murder each other to the death is just it's an interesting concept. I think they nail a lot of aspects of it, make it really interesting. And there's stuff I'm just like, I'd like a little bit more from why all this is going on. And whatever, it's hit and miss in that aspect. But I mean, for the most part, just I think it's absolutely interesting world, and I would keep coming back to this world. But a lot of the downside to this film, as interesting as I think a lot of it is, and they bring back the director from some of the previous movies, Francis Lawrence, and I think a big problem here is pacing, is editing, is just maybe being a little too attached at the hip to the source material. And I know there's a lot of book fans out there who love their direct adaptations, but I'm sorry, when you have a film adaptation, you gotta lose stuff, you gotta trim some fat, and I think there was a lot of stuff here that was maybe unnecessary. It was definitely unnecessarily long. This film was so long. It was 157 minutes. That's 2.5 hours. I think they could have easily cut maybe 20 minutes out of this film, and it would have been better for it. And if they wanted to keep all of it in, it could have been maybe a 2-hour movie, and they could have really fleshed out, I think, Coriolanus' character, especially in the third act. But I just, because there was some stuff that was just at the end, the ending of the movie, some of it just didn't make sense, like what happens. I don't want to spoil nothing, because I mean, it's only been out for the weekend, and I'm sure there's plenty of people who still haven't gone out to see it, so I won't spoil it. I mean, if you read the book, and I'm sure maybe the book goes into more depth and answers some stuff, but it just didn't feel like there was a great resolution to this film. I mean, there's a couple little bits at the end I did like, where they tied some stuff together, but I felt like there's a few just dangling things that they just didn't really resolve in a great manner. But that's just me personally. Yeah, I do think that for the most part this is an enjoyable movie, but I am bummed to have such a good cast, and to say that I think they could have really done a number on editing this film, trimming it down, and just making it a little more coherent at times, because I felt lost at times. I'm like, what are we even talking about? Why is this even important? And I get there was a few winks and nods to the original Hunger Games series, because this is a prequel, so they're like, oh, hey, this is an important phrase that we need to know later on, or this is an important song that plays dividends later, which is cool and fine, but I kind of wish this would have just kind of stood a little bit more, on its own. Which I get. Look, it's a prequel, and it's got a lot to live up to with, the Hunger Games, franchise. And is it the best of the franchise? I don't think so. This might be the weakest entry in the franchise, which baffles me, because, like I said, best performances in the franchise, but the worst film. And it's not even bad, because at the end of the day, I'm giving this film a solid B. I just feel like it was a big missed opportunity here to really showcase what this world could be, and to really dive into a bunch of great character stuff. And for a majority of the film, I think they do delve into Coriolanus' Snow's, character to a great extent. But I do think they lack a lot to be desired by the third act, because it is all revolving around him. And you kind of waste a bit of Blyth's performance in that regard. But I don't know. I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure there will be more people who've read the books who will enjoy this a lot more than me, or people who even are Hunger Games movie fans that'll enjoy this way more than me. I just, maybe I'm a little too critical, but I do think, too long, and great performances, but just a messy story, because it did feel like the movie should have ended before part 3, and it felt like part 3 was not unnecessary, but just felt like it could have been a whole different movie. But that's just me. What do you guys think? Have you seen The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, aka one of the longest titles ever? Do you plan on seeing it? Did you see it this past weekend? Let me know your thoughts down below. And if you could please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the little bell notification to be notified whenever I drop new videos. It would be greatly appreciated. And until the next review, guys, I'll be seeing you.